Nope. Unbelievable. I've got to make a decision on that.
Okay. Daddy, something's on fire.
Oh no, that's all right. Let's go. Hey everybody, what's up? Remember from last episode, we got the winch installed, we got the bumper cut. Now it's time to give this truck some sort of locker device. So it has an open differential in the front, meaning it'll power whichever tire has the least amount of resistance. And then in the back, it has a Ford factory track lock, which is like a clutch type posi. I think it's fairly tight, but I don't know that it's tight enough to go rock crawling. I've got to make a decision on that. I think doing a welded diff is going to be pretty hard on a track lock. I'm going to start with some things I know I need to do. I need to get the rear bumper off. I need to take the overload leafs off. The rear shocks hang really low. Anyway, I'm going to set the camera up and we'll just start wrenching. So I mentioned this truck has a factory clutch type posi. Right now the truck's in park, so the drive shaft won't turn. If I turn this wheel and the clutch is tight, the other one should try to go forward too. And it's, I don't know if you can see it over there. Let me. So we're moving this wheel forward, but look through there at the other one. And it's going backwards. So kind of right there, we know the clutches aren't that tight. If I can just kind of put my foot on it and make them spin the other direction. So I think that's the answer. I think we need to weld it up. Let's get this thing blown apart. Now that I've got the bumper off, I need to, you can see kind of how much departure angle that receiver is going to take away. So I want to figure out what I can do to raise this up. I was just going to take the receiver off, but these bolts are so rusty. This is 38 inches from outside of frame rail to outside of frame rail. And somebody gave me this brand new receiver that didn't fit their vehicle, and it's 40 inches wide. So I think what I might do is just cut 38 inches out of that and put that 38 inch across receiver right here on the back of the frame and just weld it right to the frame. Yeah, maybe plasma this off. I don't know. I'd love to just take it off, but maybe I'll heat up a couple of the bolts and see if they come out easy.
Okay. Daddy, something's on fire.
Oh no, that's all right.
What?
It's only kind of on fire.
There's a flame.
Well, it's not like a lot of fire.
It's not engulfed.
Yeah, it's just like a baby fire.
Can I blow it out?
Bumper's off. Receiver's off. Rust is horrible. If anybody watching this is from the Rust Belt or back east or anywhere they salt the roads, I don't know how. I don't know how your mechanics do it. Like all those bolts, the bumper bolts and receiver bolts should have just come right out, but nope. Let's get these, let's get the frame rails cleaned up, see if we can find some actual clean steel somewhere in there, and then I'll cut that receiver tube, weld it up there, and see if it needs any reinforcement plate or anything like that. Receivers just tacked in place with my 110 welder. I'll weld it vertically right here, and then I'll probably heat up the bottom of the frame rail and hit it up with a hammer so that I can close these gaps. But I want to weld it here and here, and then I think that'll be plenty strong for whatever this thing's gonna do. I don't know if it'll ever tow anything, but at the least it's a good recovery point. Ties in the rear frame rails. Recovery point. Let's just admit it. We need them. Ended up doing a few things with the camera off, unfortunately for you guys, but I'll run you through it. Rear shock, the lower mounts on the axle hung really low. They were this assembly, and it was U-bolted to the axle, and it hung way down. So I took them off, and I've been trying to think about what to do with them. And I think what I'm gonna do is like angle the shocks a lot, and then cut the bracket up and just weld the ears on the like front side of the axle. And I think that won't affect bumper droop. And then it'll give me a nice, you know, clean bottom to the axle. The other thing I did was to get that shock angle, I needed the tailpipe out of here, which kind of sped up my timeline to get the exhaust off. We get the axle housings cleaned up and cut these brackets in the bandsaw, cut them off a bit, get the shocks remounted, and then I think I'll pull the diff. My buddy Seth's coming over around 3, and I'm gonna turn him loose with a cutoff wheel. Clearance cut the bed sides, cut all this material out, and get our departure angle looking good. Probably one of the single best mods you can make if you want to go off-roading is some sort of locker. If you want to do that on a budget, you weld the differential together to turn it into essentially a spool. I don't know how well that's going to work on this factory clutch type unit, but I won't know unless I take it out, so let's do it. Well, I couldn't find any info online about people linking lockering or welding up Ford track locks, but I might get lucky because it looks like it's got just a standard spider gear arrangement, but that behind the spider gears, I'm sure you can't see that, are the clutch packs. So it should be weldable because the axle shafts are splined into the spider gears. So if I just weld all this, it should work out. I was going to pull the carrier out to weld the spiders, but then I thought, it's just the budget challenge. Like, who cares? So I sprayed some brake clean in there. We're gonna weld that corner, that corner, that corner, that corner. Roll the thing 180. Do the same on the other side. And then I might cut little rectangular plates to lay in there and weld across the side gears also. I don't know at what point the case is weaker than like the welding. I'm gonna give that a try. So clamp the camera onto something in here, fire up the welder. It's all done. I ended up being like 1.5 inches wide by 2.5 inches tall plates out of 1/4 inch. And after I welded the corners, I just threw those in there and welded whatever I could reach. So I did that on both sides of the open carrier, and hopefully that'll be strong enough to not explode. Throw a bead RTV on this thing, put the cover back on it,